Trauma-informed care. The care participants that you'll be paired with fall into one of two categories. A caregiver of a senior, 55 years or older, or someone who has served in the military. This could be a caregiver or care recipient. Though we intend to have more specific training on how to support those who have been negatively affected by their time in military service, for now, a trauma-informed approach can serve as a good model in gaining rapport with someone who may have issues with trust due to being traumatized. And let's remember one thing about trauma. It's known that about 70% of the population has been traumatized in one way or the other. So whether someone who has served in the military or not, when you're first meeting your caregiver and care recipient, this trauma-informed approach, I think, is going to be the best. As you can see from this visual, there are 5 suggestions in order to form a healthy bond with your client. Safety. In the initial meeting with clients, use a soft approach, being very aware of their comfort levels around topics and ideas, even physical movement. Prove your trustworthiness by keeping your word, being on time, and keeping consistent boundaries. Give your client plenty of choices around activities and even conversation tempo, empowering them to contribute to the decisions. Make their experience a collaboration instead of having a certain agenda. Following these principles should ensure a positive connection with your assigned dyad. Deep listening. For some of you, volunteering is something you've done for a lifetime, and for others, this might be your first assignment. In the next sections, some of this will be a review for some of you, and for others, it might give you some interesting insight. The focus of a care team is to build a strong relationship with care participants. And it's proven that those who listen have stronger relationships. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about deep listening. It is said there are 2 types of listening: listening to understand and listening to respond. Which of these 2 make you feel heard? Someone who's really listening to understand something about you, or someone who's waiting for you to finish talking so that they can interject what they have on their minds? I think we can all agree that talking with someone who wants to understand what you're saying forms a stronger connection. In recent years, there's been a focus on active listening. This is described as the act of consciously listening to hear what someone is saying, being completely focused on their words without distraction. This has been a really helpful practice, but as you begin to work with care participants, probably especially care recipients who may suffer memory loss or have aphasia or other verbal difficulties, a shift into deep listening might be more helpful. In deep listening, the goal is to acquire information, understand a person or a situation, and experience connection. This can be a little bit more challenging when someone can't form, complete sentences, etc. So you may have to look at their expressions, the way they're moving. You might use kind of informal sign language or receive informal sign language in order to deeply understand what's going on with them. Deep listening builds trust, sets the foundation for a healthy relationship, cultivates empathy and compassion, and forges a bond. Love this quote from Rachel Reman. Listening creates a holy silence. When you listen generously to people, they can hear truth in themselves, often for the first time. And in the silence of listening, you can know yourself and everyone. Cultivating compassion. Compassion is defined as an emotion that is a sense of shared suffering, most often combined with a desire to alleviate or reduce the suffering of another, to show special kindness to those who suffer. Compassion essentially arises through empathy and is often characterized through actions. Whether you're new to volunteering or have been contributing your time for years, you're probably already a compassionate, caring individual. But with every volunteer assignment that comes your way, there can be interesting and new challenges, and you may run across a personality, experience, or environment that requires you to dig deeper into your compassion reserve. Here are 3 things to think about when you're trying to cultivate compassion. Begin with self-compassion. Take care of your needs first. You can't serve water from an empty well. Relax judgment. Recognize the opinions, environment, religious affiliations of the client that you work with are a collection of their personal choices that can remain with them. They're not yours to absorb or contradict. Be present and listen. Compassion flourishes through acts of kindness. There is none greater than being generously accessible to another. So one thing that you can notice about teams and team formation is that they have some stages that they go through. Psychologist Bruce Tuckman came up with these 4 phrases that you might recognize. He came up with these in the 60s, but they are still relevant today. The 4 stages of team formation are forming, storming, norming, and performing. Think back to the many teams that you have found yourself in, and you can certainly see these stages. The beginning polite newness stages when you're forming a team, the rough patch as personalities emerge and disagreements begin, storming. The next phase of norming usually happens as everyone kind of finds their place and their role in the group. And lastly, performing as the group becomes a functioning team. Group agreements. Once a caregiver has been approved, volunteers will be notified and teams matched who best fit their needs. A date will be coordinated for the initial meeting for the team. This initial meeting is called the Care Team's Formation Meeting. The first meeting can determine the group's values and agreements. In this meeting, each individual will be asked to answer this question. What core team value do you want to be part of your care team agreements? As you can see from this slide, here are some examples of group agreements. Together, we accomplish more than we could on our own. We all get to share our unique gifts, talents, and skills and learn from others as they do the same. We generally grow more in relationship with others than working on our own. Now, these are past agreements, and your agreements are going to look differently. But what you will bring to the first meeting is what you value, a core value that you have to feel safe and comfortable in a group setting. Talents and gifts assessment is a form where you get to mark and show what you like doing best. So before the first formation meeting, a talents and gifts assessment form will be sent to each team member. You can fill them out on your own time and then send them back to me, actually, to the staff. And then also you would want to send them back to the people who are in your care team. You can see from the assessment that it'll generally talk about, things that you might be interested in, record keeping, phone calls, cards and notes. Are you better in person or are you better remote? Do you have evenings available? Do you have weekends available? So each team member is going to fill that out, and they're all going to be different, which is what the great thing about working on a team. It's a great way for each of you to recognize where your gifts and talents will best be served, and the things you're interested in, somebody else won't be. So it really works out nicely. The talents and gifts assessment can also help when deciding what role you want to take in the care team. As you can see from this slide, the care team roles, here's some ideas, but then when you get into your own care team, you might have other headings for the name of the role that you want to play within the care team. But here's some suggestions. Team lead, who facilitates the monthly team meetings. The caregiver liaison, the person who is going to be the one who reaches out most to the caregiver. The program staff liaison, that's usually the team lead. So that's someone who connects with me because I'll be connecting in, monthly to see what's going on with the care team, to see if I can support in any way. You could have a researcher. One care team has what they call a scribe. So she actually writes down everything that's going on and sends that to me. You can have someone who's the organizer. So these are just some ideas about care team roles. And once you're in the formation meeting, you can talk more about that.